Hey everyone, I'm Max Dalton, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to be a good project manager. A good project manager is someone who cares deeply about understanding all aspects of a project before it gets off the ground, and then making sure that everyone is in the loop, working together, and on the same page throughout the project management lifecycle. Good project managers understand that you can prevent a lot of heartache in the later phases of a project by putting in a lot of time during the early phases. This article outlines what makes a good project manager. Number 1, have a clear project plan. Having a solid project plan at the beginning of your projects doesn't guarantee that the project won't go off the rails further down the line, but it will reduce the risk of that happening tremendously. And if a project does go off the rails, it gives you something tangible you can show your boss that illustrates you did everything in your power to keep things on track. While a project plan is very much a living, breathing document that will continue to change and evolve as projects move through the phases of the project management lifecycle, it is necessary that the following elements get rolled into your project plan early and updated often. Schedule milestones and baseline, risk register, assumption log, what's in scope and out of scope, stakeholder register, communication plan, cost baseline, and various management plans. Number 2, you need to understand the value proposition of your project. In a perfect world, you should be able to pull the value proposition from the business case that was generated as part of the exploration into whether or not the business wanted to move forward with this as a project. However, if that doesn't exist, you still need to clearly spell out what the value proposition of undergoing this specific project is. If this sort of exploration wasn't done prior to launching an official project, there's a risk that everyone will be spinning their wheels for something that won't result in any real benefit. Number 3, you should have put a strong effort into identifying all of the stakeholders. This should include everyone from the executive sponsor on down to representatives from groups that will be affected by the final deliverable. This includes everyone from key stakeholders to peripheral stakeholders who may just be impacted by your project. Number 4, the communication plan. Make sure that you clearly outline the type of communication each stakeholder should receive and how frequently they should receive it. Further, a good project manager needs to go further than having a strong communication plan and really work to understand the personalities of their project stakeholders and what makes them tick. Some stakeholders may appreciate you stopping by their office occasionally and chatting in person about the status of their project, whereas other stakeholders may only want to hear from you if something is in trouble. You also need to take into account office politics that may be at play between stakeholders. Most project teams include representatives from different functional groups, and those groups will often have their own agenda that they are working to push. Number 5, requirements. The project manager can be responsible for gathering requirements, but this should ideally be done by the business analyst. Whoever is responsible for gathering requirements should make sure that they cover the many different types of requirements that should be gathered. The types of requirements vary by industry, but some examples include functional, non-functional, legal, security, interface, database, usability, and more. Having clear requirements is necessary to clearly define the scope of the work that needs to be done and plan resource allocation and forecast expenses. Ensuring the requirements are solid at the outset can prevent scope creep further down the line. Number 6, a high-level schedule. At the beginning of the project, this should be a high-level milestone chart that calls out the major pieces of work that will need to be done, the person or teams who will be responsible for those pieces of work, and estimates for how long it will take to complete those work pieces. Number 7, the definition of success. Clearly define what will need to happen for this to be a successful project. This can be a number of things. For example, this could be an increase in the bottom line, an increased number of clicks, more people coming through the door, or any number of other things. Number 8, financial information. Know what the budget is that you have to work with, and have a plan for managing and approving the spending of those funds. Additionally, it may be helpful to generate a burn-down chart, which is a time-phased forecast of when you will spend project funds over the life of the project. Number 9. Assumptions. Be sure to lay out all of the assumptions as you move through the discovery and planning for your project. Assumptions can cover pretty much anything that you believe will be true, but is not a guarantee that factors into your current plan. For example, you may assume that you will have access to a specific resource for your project, or that another project will be completed before you begin your project. Number 10. Risks and constraints. Spell out all of the risks that could impact your project. This can include environmental conditions, the risk of government regulations coming down the line, or a number of other things. Additionally, make sure that you understand the probability of each risk and that you have an approved mitigation strategy should risks be realized. Number 12. Executive sponsor and key stakeholder sign-off. Perhaps the most important piece of the puzzle is that all key stakeholders sign off on the plan initially, and also that they sign off on the plan as it is updated throughout the project. To help track this, it can be valuable to have a page at the front of the plan that calls out the date of updates, who made those updates, and what was changed in the document. Number 13. Manage the scope of the project. After you work with all of the necessary stakeholders to gather requirements around the work that will be done, get sign-off on those requirements, generate estimates, and line up resources based on those requirements, it's important to manage that scope to prevent scope creep. Scope creep is the ultimate destroyer of projects, and it occurs when a stakeholder keeps adding requirements to the projects after funding and resources have already been secured based on the initial estimates. When that happens, you can quickly find yourself in a situation where you try to get more work done with the same amount of money and the same number of resources over the same duration, which often results in work getting done poorly. If everyone signed off on the requirements spelled out in the project plan, then the project manager has some recourse to go back to the stakeholders making the request to include additional requirements and say if they want those requirements to be included, then they will need more resources and more time. At that point, the ball is placed in the stakeholders' court, and if they want to move forward with including those requirements, the onus is on them to round up the funding and sell the rest of the project team on increasing the project timeline. You should never be afraid to push back. If you don't push back and you try to add in more requirements without adding resources and time, then the blame for that decision falls on you. Number 14. Be honest. Above all, a good project manager is always honest and works to set expectations appropriately, and if the news is bad, the responsibility is on you to deliver it. However, you can often soften the blow by putting forward a solution. It may not be the direction the team decides to go, but stakeholders are always more receptive if you bring forward a solution rather than just dropping a problem in their lap. Additionally, clearly lay out the problem and how you arrived there, but don't work to put the blame on other people. Blaming other people rarely accomplishes anything, and it only delays starting work on a solution. Number 15. Keep moving the team forward. Projects can stall out if members of the project team aren't clear what the goals they should be working toward are. A good project manager can prevent this by ensuring that there are short, medium, and long-term project goals and that all individuals are clear what they are working toward in both the short, medium, and longer term. Having regular, quick touch points with team members can be a great way to ensure that people are staying on task. Alternatively, having team members spend 5 minutes at the end of the day and writing up a quick, high-level summary of what they did that day and what they have on deck for tomorrow is another great way to ensure that everyone is moving forward. Number 16. And finally, address team disputes immediately. Disagreements and debates among team members can be very healthy for a project. It illustrates the passion people have for what they are working on, and it often leads to a deep exploration around the best path forward. However, confrontations can occasionally go too far and can result in genuine bad blood between team members. A good project manager will work to rein in a discussion if it looks like it could get too heated. However, If it does lead to ill will between teammates, a good project manager will work to manage that conflict appropriately, whether that means pulling those individuals into a room to talk through their problems, having one-to-one conversations with them about the issue, or working through their managers to bring an end to the dispute. The worst thing a project manager can do in that situation is ignore the problem and let the dispute get worse, as that can start to bring the project down. Congratulations, you now know how to be a good project manager. Thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. If you liked what you saw here, click the video link on the right side of the screen to check out another video. Or click the logo on the left side of the screen to subscribe to this channel to see more great videos like this one.